Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into something today that's pretty much guaranteed to pop up on your UPSC exams,
Oh, yeah,
government subsidies in India.
definitely.
And trust me, this isn't just about cramming a bunch of facts for prelims.
All right.
It's about really getting those nuances,
Yeah.
the debates,
Uh-huh.
the impact subsidies have on everything from farmers to the national budget.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be using this recent article from the Financial Express as our guide today.
Oh, yeah.
So get those notes ready.
You're absolutely right. It goes way beyond just memorizing things.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing about subsidies is they're always this kind of push and pull
Right.
between wanting to help people and then maybe accidentally creating some problems along the way.
Okay, so before we get too deep into that push and pull,
Sure.
let's make sure we're all starting from the same place.
Yeah.
So when we say subsidy, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, I think the easiest way to put it is it's when the government steps in and provides some kind of financial assistance
Right.
to make something more affordable or to encourage a particular activity.
Okay.
Sometimes it's very direct,
Yeah.
like transferring money straight into a farmer's bank account.
Uh-huh.
Other times it's a bit more indirect,
Right.
maybe offering some tax breaks for certain investments.
So it's like getting a discount from the government.
Yeah, you could think of it that way,
Okay.
like a coupon, but on a much larger scale.
Yeah, with bigger implications for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, the article we're looking at really dives into the why behind these subsidies.
Yes.
It's not just about handing out money for no reason, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
There's a purpose.
Subsidies are meant to address some really big issues
Yeah.
that India is facing,
Okay.
like food security.
Right.
So the public distribution system, or PDS that we all know,
Yeah.
it uses subsidies to provide affordable grains to millions of people, making sure they have at least basic nutrition.
Right. And especially during emergencies.
Exactly.
As we saw with the pandemic.
Yes.
Schemes like PMGKK
Yeah.
really stepped in
Uh-huh.
to make sure people had access to food.
Exactly. Providing free grains when they were needed most.
And PMGKK showed us just how far-reaching these programs can be.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking 810 million people.
It's a huge number.
Yeah. But it's not just about feeding people, is it?
No, it's not.
Subsidies are also a huge factor when it comes to supporting our farmers.
Absolutely.
So how does that work?
Well, by subsidizing things like fertilizers,
Uh-huh.
the government can help keep those costs down,
Oh.
which is so important for farmers' income
Yeah.
and for making sure we're producing enough food for everyone.
And they've even taken some recent steps to do even more, haven't they?
Yeah, just this year they extended that special subsidy on DAP fertilizer,
Right.
trying to help farmers cope with the crazy global prices.
So knowing about these programs and those updates is super important for prelims.
Yeah, definitely.
But for mains, you got to go deeper.
That's right.
Think about this. Why are these subsidies so crucial for India's overall development?
Good question.
Like, how do they fit into the bigger picture?
You have to connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, think about India's push for renewable energy.
Okay.
A great example is the PM Co-Usam scheme,
Yeah.
which subsidizes solar pumps for farmers.
Okay.
Not only does this help cut back on fossil fuels,
Uh-huh.
it helps conserve groundwater, too.
So it's like a double win.
Exactly.
Two major goals tackled at the same time.
It's all connected.
So we're seeing how these individual programs
Yes.
link up with those broader goals of sustainable development.
Right.
And it seems like healthcare is another area where subsidies are really important.
Oh, absolutely.
What are some examples there?
Well, you've got Ayushman Bharat,
Yeah.
the massive health insurance program.
You.
It's providing financial protection for a massive number of people.
Yeah.
Over 50 crore beneficiaries.
Wow.
So it's making healthcare much more affordable, especially for those who really couldn't afford it otherwise.
That's a huge impact.
It is.
Okay, so we've seen how these subsidies try to address some really big challenges.
Yes.
But I have a feeling there's got to be another side to this story.
There is.
It can't be all smooth sailing, can it?
You're right.
I mean, when the government steps in like this,
Mhm.
there are bound to be some hiccups along the way.
While the intentions are good,
Right.
there are always challenges that come with intervention in the market.
Okay, so let's flip the script.
Sure.
Let's talk about those downsides.
Okay.
What are some of those unintended consequences we should be thinking about?
Well, one of the biggest worries is the cost.
Yeah.
Subsidies can put a huge strain on the government's finances.
Right.
And that means less money for other important areas,
Yeah.
like education, infrastructure.
It's like a trade-off, isn't it?
Exactly.
You got to choose where to spend the money.
Right.
And the article highlighted that really well.
Yeah.
Spending 4 lakh crore on subsidies,
Hmm.
but only 1.84% of GDP on public health.
That's a pretty stark difference.
It is a big difference.
Yeah.
That's one issue. The fiscal burden.
Yes.
What else?
Well, another problem is sometimes the people who really need those subsidies
Yeah.
aren't the ones who actually get them.
Oh, real?
Inefficiencies in how they're implemented,
Right. Yeah.
gaps in the data,
Uh-huh.
these all lead to what we call leakages.
Leakages.
Yeah, where those benefits just don't reach the right people.
Oh, so it's like the money's going somewhere,
Uh-huh.
just not to where it's supposed to be?
Exactly.
Is that a common problem?
It's a big problem.
Right.
It's thought that only a tiny fraction of every rupee spent on subsidies
Wow.
actually ends up in the hands of the intended beneficiary.
Wow. That's a huge problem.
It is.
But it's not just about money going astray.
No.
Sometimes subsidies can encourage overuse of resources,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which can actually harm the environment.
Right.
I'm not sure I get that. How do subsidies hurt the environment?
Think about electricity for irrigation.
Okay.
When it's heavily subsidized,
Mm-hmm.
it makes farming more affordable,
Uh-huh.
but it can also lead to farmers using way too much water,
Oh, okay.
depleting those groundwater resources,
What?
causing long-term damage.
So it's like the subsidy, while trying to help,
Yeah.
ends up backfiring,
It can.
hurting the very people it's meant to support.
Uh-huh.
And the article mentioned fertilizer as another example of this, didn't it?
It did. How does that work? When fertilizers are cheap because of subsidies,
Yeah.
it can lead to farmers using too much,
Uh-huh.
which messes up the balance of nutrients in the soil
Okay.
and can even contaminate water sources.
Wow. So it's not just about the money.
No.
It's about the environmental impact, too.
Right.
And beyond that, can subsidies actually distort the markets
It can.
and slow down innovation?
Yes, sometimes.
How does that happen?
Well, if something's artificially cheap because of the subsidy, there's less motivation to find better or more sustainable solutions.
It's like we get stuck in a rut
Exactly.
doing the same thing, even if there's a better way.
That's the risk.
And then there's the issue of transparency.
Yes, that's a big one.
Sometimes it's hard to track where all the money is going,
Uh-huh.
which can lead to delays,
Right.
inefficiencies,
And potential for misuse.
like that huge debt the Food Corporation of India had
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
because of delays in those subsidy payments.
Exactly.
So we've gone from these good intentions
Yes.
to all these unintended consequences.
That's a delicate balance.
It really is a balancing act.
And understanding these challenges
Yeah.
is super important for you UPSC folks.
Absolutely.
When you're tackling a mains question on this,
Hmm.
you got to show that you get these complexities.
Right.
That you can see both sides of the coin.
Don't just regurgitate the textbook stuff. Right?
Well, you need to analyze.
Yeah.
Show that you can think critically.
That's where you're going to impress the examiners.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we've laid out the problems,
Yes.
but it can't just end there. Right. There has to be a way to fix these things.
There are.
Right.
There are a number of solutions being explored,
Okay,
and that's what we're going to dive into next.
let's do it.
All right. So one solution that's showing a lot of promise is DBT.
DBT.
Yeah. Direct benefit transfers.
Ah, okay, so that's where the government sends money directly to people's bank accounts.
Exactly.
Right, we saw how well that worked with Pay Us All for
Yeah.
the LPG subsidies.
There's a huge success.
Yeah, it really cut down on those leakages
Absolutely.
and the black market.
By taking out those middlemen.
And it wasn't just about saving money either, was it?
No, not at all.
It gave consumers more control
Exactly.
over their choices.
They could choose what they wanted.
Yeah, I remember back then, everyone rushing to link their Aadhaar and bank accounts.
There's a big push.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
But if it works so well for LPG, why not try it for other things too?
Right. Like fertilizer subsidies?
Well, there are definitely some strong arguments for that.
Okay.
And there have been some pilot programs testing it out.
Oh, really?
The biggest challenge, though, is making sure we can really identify
Uh-huh.
and verify who the real farmers are,
Okay.
especially with so many farmers in India.
It's a huge sector.
It's a huge task.
Yeah. So you need a really strong system
Yes.
to prevent fraud
Absolutely.
and make sure those benefits go to the right people.
That's the goal.
It seems like technology could help with that.
Oh, definitely.
But even if we get the money to the right people, how do we make sure they're using it responsibly, sustainably?
That's where promoting sustainable alternatives comes in.
Okay.
Instead of just subsidizing the way things are done now,
Uh-huh.
we need to encourage solutions that get to the root of the problem.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm following.
Sure.
Can you give me an example?
So in agriculture,
Mm.
instead of just subsidizing chemical fertilizers,
Right, which we know can be bad for the environment.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
can promote things like nanourea, nanourea, and organic fertilizers.
Okay.
Nanourea is really interesting. It's
Mhm.
much more efficient
Okay.
and eco-friendly.
So is it like a new kind of fertilizer?
Yeah, it's pretty cutting edge.
Wow. Are farmers actually using it?
It's still fairly new,
Okay.
but the early research is promising.
Mm.
It seems to be just as effective,
Yeah.
but you need a much smaller amount.
So that's good for the environment.
Exactly.
And is the government doing anything to promote it?
Oh, yeah, they're running a lot of awareness campaigns.
So it's not enough to just invent the technology?
No.
You have to make sure people know about it.
You have to educate them.
Yeah, and show them how to use it.
And show them the benefits.
It's a multi-pronged approach.
It is.
And this kind of ties back to what we were talking about before with the subsidized electricity for irrigation.
Right.
Are there any sustainable alternatives for that? Like what?
Well, we can encourage the use of solar-powered pumps,
Okay.
like the ones they're promoting through PMCO-US.
Right.
This can help reduce reliance on both the subsidized electricity and groundwater.
It's a win-win
It is.
for both the farmers.
And the environment.
So I'm seeing those connections now
Yeah.
by combining things like DBT, sustainable alternatives,
Yes.
and targeted awareness campaigns.
Right.
We can start to move away from just throwing money at the problem and towards finding real long-term solutions.
That's the idea.
But what about accountability?
Good question.
Earlier, we talked about how it can be hard to track where all the money is going.
Yes. Transparency is a big issue.
So how do we fix that?
Well, technology can help here, too.
Okay. How?
You can use GIS mapping
GIS mapping.
to track land ownership.
Okay.
So you know the fertilizer subsidies are going to actual farmers.
That makes sense.
And blockchain can make the whole PDS supply chain more transparent.
How does that work?
It helps prevent grain from being diverted to the black market.
Oh, it's just like a digital trail.
Yeah, you can track where everything is going.
Okay.
And then you've got data analytics, which can help identify patterns of misuse and improve targeting.
So it's like using technology
Yes.
to shine a light on everything,
Exactly.
make it harder to hide things.
And harder for things to slip through the cracks.
But technology alone can't change behavior, can it?
It's a tool, but
Yeah.
you still need to change people's mindsets.
Yeah. You got to educate people
Absolutely.
about using resources responsibly.
And making sustainable choices.
It's like that saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day.
Right.
Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
That's a great analogy.
We need to empower people,
Yes.
not just hand out money.
Give them the tools and the knowledge.
Exactly. And this brings up a really important point
Okay.
for our UPSC listeners. When you're analyzing policies,
Yeah.
like say the Ujwala scheme, don't just focus on the numbers.
Right.
Think about the bigger picture.
The social and behavioral aspect.
Exactly, because that's what the examiners are looking for.
They want to see that deeper understanding that you're connecting those policies
Yes.
to their real world impact.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about DBT, sustainable alternatives,
Yes.
technology,
Uh-huh.
behavior change.
What else can we do
Yeah. Is there anything else?
to make India's subsidy system work better?
What about bringing in the private sector?
Huh. Public-private partnerships?
Yeah.
PPPs can definitely be a part of the solution.
Okay, so how would that work?
Well, imagine fertilizer companies working with the government
Okay.
to improve the distribution networks or to promote those nanofertilizers we were talking about.
It's about combining resources, isn't it?
It is.
Getting everyone involved.
Leveraging expertise from both sides.
But even with all these solutions,
Yeah.
isn't there a risk that people become too reliant on subsidies? That's a valid concern.
Yeah, like they just expect them to always be there,
Right.
and they don't try to improve their situation.
That's where graduated exit plans can help.
Graduated exit plan.
Yes, instead of providing subsidies forever, you design programs that gradually phase out the support
Okay.
as people become more self-sufficient.
So it's like a safety net,
Exactly.
but you're also encouraging people to climb out of it.
Yes, over time.
Okay, I like that.
So think about those farmers who get free electricity
Right.
as their income grows.
Uh-huh.
They could slowly transition to a metered system
Okay.
with the price going up bit by bit.
So they're not completely cut off,
Exactly.
but they're also not stuck relying on that free electricity forever.
It's about finding a balance.
A more sustainable approach.
Right.
But let's not forget the bigger picture.
Okay.
A lot of times these subsidies
Yes.
are trying to address the symptoms of deeper problems.
Like poverty,
Right.
market inefficiencies,
We can't just rely on subsidies to fix everything.
No, we need to address those root causes.
Yeah. In agriculture, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we need better infrastructure.
Absolutely.
We need to encourage farmers to grow a wider variety of crops.
Crop diversification.
Yes, and we need to make sure they have access to markets.
So they can sell their produce.
It's not just about Band-Aids.
Right.
It's about real, long-term solutions.
It is.
But wait a minute.
What?
We've talked a lot about making the current system better.
Mm-hmm.
But is it even possible
What do you mean?
to imagine a future where India doesn't need so many subsidies?
Now that's a big question.
It is a big question.
And the answer is yes.
Really?
I think it's definitely possible.
Okay.
But it would require a major shift.
In how we think about things.
Exactly.
So instead of just government-led solutions,
Right.
we need to empower other people,
Cool.
like agri-startups,
Interesting.
social enterprises,
Mm-hmm.
to come up with creative solutions
Oh.
that address the problems we're using subsidies for now.
So instead of just making things cheaper,
Right.
we're actually solving those underlying problems.
Yeah, in a more sustainable way.
In a more market-driven way.
So it's like creating this whole ecosystem of innovation,
Exactly.
where entrepreneurs are coming up with new ideas
Yes, new solutions.
for things like precision agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
water conservation, skill development.
It's about empowering people.
And if that happens,
Yeah,
maybe we wouldn't need those traditional subsidies so much anymore.
exactly.
That's a really inspiring vision.
It is.
It makes you think about things differently.
It challenges the status quo.
But we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
So what are some key takeaways
Yeah, what should our UPSC friends remember?
when they're tackling those maids of questions?
The most important thing is to show that you really understand subsidies.
Uh-huh.
Don't just list the good things or the bad things.
Right.
Show them you can analyze.
Yeah,
Think critically.
and come up with solutions.
That's what they're looking for.
Don't forget to mention those expert committee recommendations either.
Oh, yeah, those are important.
The Shanta Kumar Committee,
Mm-hmm.
the Kelkar Committee.
Knowing those shows you've done your research.
It's like that extra spice
Right.
that makes your answers stand out.
It makes it more flavorful.
Exactly.
But remember,
Yeah.
it's not just about listing facts. You
Right.
got to show that you can think for yourself.
Analyze.
Propose solutions.
And speaking of thinking outside the box,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with a question,
But hey,
something to really think about.
let's hear it.
We talked about this future where India relies less on subsidies,
Mm-hmm.
a future driven by innovation and entrepreneurship.
It's a powerful vision.
So imagine you're in charge.
Okay.
You're tasked with creating a policy framework
Uh-huh.
to make this vision a reality.
Okay, I'm listening.
What would be your top priorities?
Interesting.
What role would technology play? Public-private partnerships,
Yeah,
community empowerment.
that's a great question.
It makes you think
It does.
about how to build a more sustainable and equitable future.
For India.
This deep dive has been quite a journey.
It has.
We've gone from decoding subsidies
Yeah.
to brainstorming solutions,
And even dreaming a little.
and hopefully we've given you the knowledge and the inspiration
To keep exploring
to keep diving deep.
into this fascinating and important topic.
Wow, this deep dive has been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It has.
We've gone from understanding what subsidies even are
Yeah.
to looking at how they work,
Mm-hmm.
what the challenges are,
Mm-hmm.
and even brainstorming some solutions.
It's been a lot.
And all of this
Yeah.
while keeping those UPSC aspirants in mind,
Absolutely.
because this is important stuff
That's right.
for those exams.
It is.
But before we get too lost in the big picture, let's
Okay.
bring it back down to earth for a sec. For our listeners who are actually prepping for those exams.
Right, let's talk strategy.
Yeah.
This whole topic of subsidies, it's like a gold mine for Maine's answers.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine a question like, critically examine the role of subsidies in India's development,
Okay.
discuss the challenges, A&D suggest measures for rationalization.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
It is.
But it's a classic Maine's question.
It is.
And we've practically given you the answer today.
I think we have.
You've got a solid understanding now
Yeah.
of the different types of subsidies,
Uh-huh.
their goals,
Mm-hmm.
the problems they can cause,
The unintended consequences.
and even some solutions.
Right?
So weave all that in
Yes, use those specific examples.
Yeah, those stats we talked about.
Uh-huh. Those real-world stories.
That's what's going to make your answer stand out.
Absolutely.
And don't forget those expert committee recommendations.
Oh, yeah, those are important.
Like the Shanta Kumar Committee, the Kelkar Committee.
Knowing those adds weight to your answer.
It's like the secret ingredient
The extra spice.
that makes it delicious.
Exactly.
But remember,
Okay.
it's not just about listing facts.
Right.
It's about showing you can think for yourself.
Analyze.
Yeah, come up with your own solutions.
Show those examiners what you're made of.
And speaking of thinking outside the box,
Okay.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought,
Right.
something to really ponder.
Let's hear it.
We talked about that future
Yeah.
where India relies less on subsidies.
A future powered by innovation
Exactly.
to entrepreneurship.
So imagine you're in charge.
Okay.
You're the one tasked with making that vision a reality.
What would I do?
What would your priorities be?
Interesting.
How would you use technology? Public-private partnerships?
Yeah.
Community empowerment?
To get there.
It's a big question,
It is.
but it's an important one.
It forces us to think long term.
Yeah, about how to build a better future.
For everyone.
This deep dive has been incredible.
It has
We've learned so much
so much
about subsidies,
about the challenges
about the possibilities,
and about the future.
and hopefully we've given you the tools
the knowledge
and the inspiration.
to keep learning.
Keep asking questions.
And keep diving deep.
And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive,
Yes.
don't forget to hit that like button
And subscribe.
for more deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep exploring
Keep learning
and keep striving
for that deeper understanding.
Yeah.
For that deeper understanding.